Yep. It shouldn't be coming from the computer though.
Nope, it shouldn't. I'm on.
Mute each one of you can.
Does that work?
Tom, I don't know if you can hear me if Hamilton Wenham Cam isn't happening through there.
All right.
But then I realized that echo is coming from there. Ooh.
Let me see what Joe said. He said, connect the HDMI cable to the wall, make sure the speaker and microphone on the laptop are off. Sound will come through. HDMI. Okay.
All right, so turn off the microphone.
This one.
Is that one?
Okay. Yep.
And the speaker is also off.
My mic. Oh, come on.
And then turn off the speaker.
Speaker's on. This happened last time.
Hey, did you hear what's up with Joe? Is it anything serious? Or just,
It's like I texted him today, but it's like something that happened. It's whether it's gallbladder or pancreas or kidney stones or something, but
gotcha.
what's going on?
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's working.
Now they should hear you through.
Right. Good point, though.
Okay. Awesome. Folks on the line, whether that be Corinne or Tom or even Christine, can y'all hear us in the room right now?
Yes.
Yeah, there was an echo going on for a while, but now I can hear you.
Okay, I hear Tom like he's in a well. Hold on, Tom.
Hello.
I thought it was Timmy who fell in the
Try that
wall.
again.
Lassie, remember?
Tom.
Yeah, I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Here we go.
We shouldn't even be, we shouldn't be here.
Back there. Okay, well, that's a start.
Oh, I don't have a computer.
hear me?
I don't have anything. I'll use my cell phone. Are you using your cell phone?
I don't think
No.
we're
You know
gonna
what?
need it,
We're
right?
going to
Multitasking.
be okay with that for now because, Tom, are you making your way in here or no?
Depends on how long it goes.
Okay.
But my wife gets out at 7, so.
Okay, we're going to we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to keep in mind that if there are comments on the phone, they're coming from a distance, somewhere near Wenham, so everyone just listen closely. With that, I will call to order the Select Board meeting of Monday, March 31st, 2025. I will take a roll call vote because we do have a remote member, so I will start with you, Tom Myers.
Yes, Tom Myers, yes, here.
Rosie Kennedy.
Rosie Kennedy here.
William Olson here.
Bill Wilson here.
Caroline Beaulieu here. All right, welcome everyone. We are here for hopefully a very swift agenda today. But before we get started, we have had an unexpected chain of events today, and Tom cannot join us. As is our policy, Joe either needs to officially designate by letter for Russ to stand in for him, or the select board can make a motion to have Russ be the acting town manager until such time as Joe returns and officially lets us know that he's on duty. So before we can actually continue with the agenda, I'd be grateful if somebody could make a motion.
I move that we appoint Joe as the acting.
No, Russ.
Russ. Sorry, Russ. As the acting town manager.
Second.
All right, any discussion? He's a wily one, and this could go sideways. Yes,
Just
ma'am.
a question. Do we have any idea how long we would anticipate Joe being up?
I am imagining that it is perhaps 24 hours, but possibly a little bit more or less. Yeah, he's rounding the bend, but we're not certain if he'll be up to it tomorrow.
I was hopeful that's what it would be.
Yes, that seems to be the case. So we'll go ahead and take a vote. Tom Myers.
Tom Myers, yes.
Awesome.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
William Olson, aye.
Bill Wilson, aye.
Caroline Beaulieu, aye. With that, Sir Town Manager, we will move to our first agenda item, which is the recommendation for our new police chief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about, it's exciting for me because it starts a new chapter for me as well as it starts a new chapter for the town and for Lieutenant Eddie Guy from Andover. So first, I just want to talk about the process real quick, how the process is, how we came to be where we're at right now. So we did it in 5 phases. The first phase was the creation of the job announcement. We do the job announcement by looking at the current job description for the police chief now. We look at the town, we look at the demographics of the town. We created a 1.5-page job description. The job description gets posted for 30 days. It was posted through Mass Municipal Association, it was posted through Mass Chiefs Association, as well as was posted through our CJIS website, Criminal Justice Information System website. After the 30-day period, we got 15 applications, 15 resumes. The second phase is phase 2, which was the written essay phase, and that's when we send out questions to each one of the candidates, and the candidates were required to respond to written questions asked. Questions were related to best practices in today's policing, as well as questions relating to the town and their philosophies on policing. So first phase was resume, collecting resumes, weighting the resumes, scoring the resumes. Second phase was response to written questions. Now, we do written questions to also look at their writing skills. We ask that they not use AI. We run it through a scanner to make sure they didn't use AI. We want it to be their words. We're not looking for dangling participles. However, a police chief should be able to write. So we're looking for that. The second phase were oral interviews. The third phase was our oral interviews, where we asked candidates to take part in an oral interview. Different set of questions were asked of each of the candidates. That gives us the ability to look at their oral communication skills, think fast on their feet, and again, we discuss philosophies of policing, we discuss the town itself. What does it look like for them? What is their vision as the new police chief for the town of Hamilton? The fourth phase was the assessment center. Now, assessment centers have been proven to be a powerful tool for making promotional decisions on. An assessment center uses a series of simulated on-the-job challenges to gauge a candidate's ability to perform the target job. Individuals in job simulations offer in-depth information and insight into individual strengths, weaknesses, and overall performance to perform the job. So we did a in-person assessment center. It was conducted by 4 chiefs, not I. I was not present at the assessment center. So we had 4 chiefs that came from like towns similar to our town here, that came and did and have experience and were seasoned chief of what we should be looking for. Every town is different. The police chief in Hamilton has different roles and responsibilities than a police chief in whatever other town we want to compare it. It's just different. Although we wear a blue uniform, it's just different. Our expectations are different. The way we interact is different. So we were looking at that. At this point, we narrowed the search down to 3 finalists who moved to the next phase, and they went through the 3 finalists were the in-person select board meeting, the meet and greet that was held at the community house. And so that was the meet and greet, and then from there, they went on a one-on-one interview with the Madam Chair as well as the town manager, which brings us up to today's point. So after careful consideration, the town manager, through me as the acting town manager, looking for your confirmation and support to vote for Edward Guy in as the next Hamilton police chief. And I, as police chief, although I'm wearing 2 hats right now, agree and support him on this decision. But before you take a vote, I would like to tell you a little about Lieutenant Guy. Now, I've known him for 12 years in a professional role. He was he's been involved in the mass accreditation assessments for years now, and he was, when we came to our initial certification, he was one of our first assessors, so that's when I first met him. He has over 30 years' experience, starting his police career in 1995 in Methuen. He joined the Andover Police Department in 2004. He was promoted sergeant in 2008, and then again lieutenant in 2012. In 2016, he was assigned as the executive director of the Andover Police Department, where he serves as second in command of the department. So in Andover, a lieutenant is second in command, serving as the executive officer. So he does for Andover PD what Captain Janes does for us in Hamilton. He has a master's degree in criminal justice administration from Western New England College. He's attended numerous professional leadership classes to include the FBI National Academy, Harvard Kennedy School Executive Program, Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command class, and Roger Williams University Senior Leadership, and many more. More importantly, he's a family person. He's been married for over 17 years and has a 15-year-old daughter. On a personal note, I've been very fortunate enough to have been given the privilege of being Hamilton's police chief for the past over 15 years. The townspeople, town managers, numerous select board members have been nothing but supportive of me during my tenure and the police department and everything we've done. I've also made it known that I would not leave the town, the department, or its residents to someone I feel would not serve them in the manner that I would expect. Being a police chief in a small town is also about the fit. And I personally believe that Ed Guy possesses the knowledge, skill set, and the demeanor, and is the right fit for the position. Madam Chair, through you to the board, I am requesting a vote to appoint Edward Guy as the next Hamilton Police Chief pending a successful psychological, medical, and background investigation. But before you take a vote, does anyone have any questions of me or questions of Lieutenant Guy?
Any questions?
I don't have any questions of Chief, but I would love to hear from Lieutenant Guy.
Yeah.
By all means, please.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. As Chief Russ Stevens said, I have over 30 years. I am a family man, and I'm very excited for the opportunity to be able to be the next police chief upon your vote. I can assure you that I believe in the highest level of professionalism. I've been devoted to and committed to professional policing throughout my career. That's why when he mentions about the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission, I've been an assessor since 2010. I've been involved with the Standards and Training Committee, which basically comes up with, as far as what the best practices in policing are going to be. We base that off the national model. And we deal with training and making sure that people in other police departments are ready to be able to make their police departments professional as far as being able to meet the standards. And without question, that is something that I've taken and really honed my skills at. I've mentored other police departments to make sure that they're able to achieve that same recognition as far as being certified or accredited within the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. But throughout my career, I've had a wide array of different type of experiences, whether it be community policing. When I was with the city of Methuen, it was called Neighborhood Services, and working in actual troubled neighborhoods where there was actually a lot of different types of crime. When I went over to Andover, it was different. Community policing was more about community engagement and about looking at the community and some of the trends and the things that they were having issue, whether it be drug addiction or mental health, and then being able to implement different programs to be able to help people out. And I look forward to be able to come here with my own experiences in that background and do the same thing here. I know it's a smaller community, but I feel very strongly about being able to go in, be able to meet the people here, be able to listen to them, listen to you, and see what it is that you need to make sure that your police department is run effectively and efficiently, and make sure that we're, committed to providing you with the best police service that you would expect, for the town of Hamilton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to follow up with that, I mean, you got some, I appreciate you jumping in to try and fill Chief Stevens' footsteps and feet, because he's done a good job for over the years and always gained a lot of respect. So two kind of quick follow-up questions, comments, sort of what he does and sort of response to it.
Sure.
But the one thing that we appreciate from Chief Stevens is that although enforcement is important, education always seems more important to him, and he's always about educating before he does anything else to make sure everybody understands what they've done and what they need to do. So I just want to understand your sort of general theory on education of the public versus enforcement. And then number two was, what I noticed about Hamilton, and I don't notice about other communities, that everybody waves the police officer when they drive by. The kids, the adults, the senior citizens, the employees, and everybody. Like we've developed a culture where the police are part of the community. So I just want to understand, sort of comment on those two things about how you see that moving forward with you as a chief, and how that is important to you.
So on your first question, as far as education, you said education.
In terms of like enforcement, like somebody says something wrong, there's two ways you sort of can react to it, right? You
They
can
like
sort
to tell me not to walk around with wine, not take me to jail for walking around with wine.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Okay. So when it that's very good. I like that. So when it comes to that type of thing, listen, it is a small community. You need to take those things into consideration when you're policing any given community, because it's what you have to do with what the community expects, okay? So each community is going to have its own differences about what is, allowable. And, as police officers, we need to understand that you just don't go out and enforce the law just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. There's a lot of different ways to be able to handle different types of incidents, and many times, especially in a community like this, where people are going to be, for the most part, probably very respectful of the police, you need to just have to maybe just talk to people if they're doing something maybe that somebody's complaining about. You just have a conversation with them, and you get them to understand why that might be a problem. Arrest and summoning people is a last resort. Writing citations is a last resort. There's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration before you move to that next step, where you're going to affect somebody either monetarily or somebody's going to have to go through the court system. So it's about using, your best judgment in that. Every situation is different, and you have to take all of the information and realize, okay, well, what am I going to do with this based on the information that I have? Is it something that I need to go to that area where I have to arrest somebody, or is it a case where maybe we don't need to do that? So each case is different, but, in a small community, most people are respectful. It isn't like, when I worked in Methuen, it was a very different, there was a lot of crime. So you have to deal with it the way that you have to deal with it. This is Hamilton, and it's a small community. Everybody knows each other, and I would expect that most people know the police, and the police know the people, and it's best just to talk to them about it, and then that way they can understand what the problem was and maybe not do it anymore.
Maybe.
And there was a second question?
This is about the culture that, I think we've seen in Hamilton about everybody sort of waves the police. How are you going to maintain that culture of having the police be part of the community? People aren't afraid of them, people go to them, people become friends with them, see them in the store, say hi.
Yep.
That's important to everybody, so.
So the similarities with Hamilton and Andover are just that. We receive a lot of support from our citizens in the town of Andover. When I tell you if there's ever a problem or a situation where we're dealing with a tragedy, or I'll give you a prime example. In 2018, we had the gas disasters in Lawrence, Andover, and North Andover. The community came out of the woodwork to support us, whether it be bringing cookies or, whatever it is that we needed, just bringing in notes, kids coming in. That's a great thing, and that goes to the level of community involvement we have in the town of Andover. And that is the same exact way that I'll be here, because you have to have community involvement. If you don't have community support, then you're not able to do the job that you need to do effectively, because people need to have lines of communication, whether it be with the board, whether it be with other town departments, whether it's with the community itself. So when you do that, you're able to build relationships, and then if somebody has a problem with speeding, they should be able to come to you, and you should be able to effectively address that situation. Without the community, we can't do our jobs effectively, and it's very important. And I've learned that, whether it be, in Andover, in even Methuen, there was plenty of times when, communities were able to tell you things that were going on, and when you have communication with them, then they trust you, and then you're able to do your job more effectively.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Well, may I?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the select board vote in the affirmative to welcome Edward Guy as our new police chief.
Second that.
Second, great. One thing I'll add before we take a vote, I was fortunate enough to interview the 3 candidates, and I know Rosie also met with them. And I do want to just kudos to Russ and also Joe. There was not a bad candidate among them. It was an exceptional group, which actually made the decision all the more complex. It wasn't just about skills, it was about the current force, the future of the force, where the town is now, where the town will be in the future, and finding somebody who had a very unique set of leadership skills, experience, time on the force, mentorship capabilities, things like that. The other 2 candidates are incredible candidates who will go on to do great things, but this process was more fruitful fruitful and more impactful than I had ever imagined it would be. And we were so lucky. And so you certainly came from the cream of the crop. And, you know, we're excited. So with that,
Caroline, if I can just make a quick comment before we vote.
oh, yep, sorry. Just talk very loudly because you're talking from Wenham.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Yes?
No.
Not really.
All right, well, I can hold my comment if it's going to go unheard.
I mean, we can hear that you said that you were going to make a comment and you don't want it to go unheard. So we'll be very.
I said I can hold my comment, I guess, if no one's going to hear it, if I'm just speaking to the abyss.
You will hold this comment if no one's going to hear it.
Russ is standing under the speaker and can hear it.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that it was a pleasure getting to meet Lieutenant Guy last week at the community house. I was really impressed with your background, what you've done in Andover. I was even more impressed with, your understanding of Hamilton and what your vision was for Hamilton. And the fact that you have the full confidence of Chief Stevens really gives me a reassurance. Chief Stevens has been a staple in this community for the last 15 years. And the fact that you have his full support makes me feel like we're making the right choice here. So it's a pleasure to have you on board.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, we haven't met yet, but it was a great process. I'll echo on that. And that Lieutenant Guy, future chief of the town of Hamilton, clearly by your experiences, your accomplishments over time, the accumulation of all of that, we're lucky to have you. You do have big shoes to fill, but I do feel like this will be a very easy transition. You seem like you come from a similar mode or foundation of how you will lead a team, and I think that'll make for an easier transition. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, Tom Myers, I will start with you.
Tom Myers, aye.
William Wilson, aye.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill Wilson, aye.
Caroline Beaulieu, aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Check your car for wine, please.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Madam Chair, it's not the glasses, it's the two bottles of wine and 3 glasses you're holding at the same time.
It was when I was holding it, you know,
But it's the 4 empty
un-
glasses, really.
I was told it was the cork missing that was the problem. That if I could find the cork, that wouldn't be a problem.
Thank you all, I truly appreciate it. And I do, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate all the support the board's given us in the police department over the years. You've been nothing but, I don't care, to be honest with you, I got hired September 9th, 2014. At that time, we had a 3-person board. Bill Bowler, Dave Carey, who's now down the Cape, and Jennifer Scuteri, who's now in Gloucester, were the 3-person board that voted me in. So it's been a great run, and I'm not done yet. I'll be here for another 3 more months, but thank you very much to everyone, and the town residents have been great.
Yep.
Truly appreciate the support.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Chief.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. The next item on the agenda, we're hoping to just speed through, which is the assignment of the motion makers for the town warrant. Do we have a list of the, we'll just go through them. Okay, so the first up is, we don't actually have a reports, right? So we don't need a motion maker.
Yes, moderator, I
Right, but-
recognize. Oh,
Bill, we don't have any town reports, do we?
Or the annual report?
I know there's going to be slide presentation by FinCom.
Oh, they are doing that at the top of the meeting? Okay. So who would like to do the motion 1-2 for reports?
I'll do that.
All right, sounds great. Consent agenda. Rosie, you want to take that one?
Sure, why not?
Rosie's on consent. Compensation classification table. Tom, that sounds like a good one for you.
Love it.
Great. Prior year bills.
My name's in that.
Yeah, I think that's you. That's Wilson. General town departmental appropriations. I like that one for you, Olson.
Sounds great.
Great, perfect. Capital expenditures. Who here is like a capital expenditures? Tom, you're taking that one, okay?
Love it.
Love it.
FinCom want to do any?
Which ones? Yeah, once we get into, let's see, 2-5, Chris W.
Chris Woolston.
Yep, Chris Wilson. Annual financial actions, Harry P. HDC is John P. OPEB also, that's 2-8 though, yeah, which I think is in the consent, but,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, but if not,
Yep.
John P. Capital Stabilization Fund, also John P. If it, CPC is Harry if it doesn't end up in the consent. Okay, and then we have 2-11, which is the Consolidated Elementary School Project, which is John McGrath. I'm wondering though, oh, he's just calling it the override. Do we want FinCom to present elementary school project or school committee? Or us? I guess it's us, but then we call
Right.
folks. So should we go ahead and introduce it or let FinCom
Right,
introduce it?
I think usually one of the selectmen will make
Okay.
the first pass, and then it'll go on to John McGrath, and then he'll probably put it on to the schools, or however they have decided to
Okay.
do it.
So as liaison, would you like to do it?
Sure.
Great. That's going to be our friend Wilson. The HERO Act. Rosie?
Please.
Yes. Extension of lease of Cutler School. Would you also like to take that one?
Sure.
Great, thanks.
Excuse me, Mr. Olson is here, the other bill.
Oh, yes, he's going to take the
rest of 'em.
the Recreation Revolving Fund, establishing a new spending
Right.
limit.
I didn't
My
want you to feel
favorite.
left out.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Then acquisition of easements of Woodsbury Street. I'll take that one. All right, and then Olson, how are you feeling about the chunk of zoning bylaws?
Well, there's one that I did not, vote,
Yeah,
so I'd rather not move that one.
So GPOD,
I could do the rest.
which was a 2-1-2 vote. I'm happy to take it.
I'll do the GPO.
Oh, you do, okay.
Sure.
Rosie will do GPOD.
Doesn't matter.
Um,
We're just
I know, but
announcing
it's, because you're moving it, it kind of makes it sound like you're,
Olson, zoning bylaw amendment for temporary signage?
that's fine, yep.
Great, cool. Zoning bylaw amendment definitions.
That's cool.
This is the building commission, I think it was the building commissioner.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep, that's gonna be Olson as well. ADU, I'll take it, I don't care. 4-5 is ADU by right, I'll also take that one, be like a little. Zoning bylaw inclusionary housing. This is the language updates, I believe, is that right?
I'm happy to do that. if
Rosie.
Somebody would like me to?
Would you also like to take site plan review?
Sure.
Okay. 4-8, floodplain overlay district. Tom, that sounds like a good one for you. Your backyard's wet.
Because your wine spilled.
Yeah, that's probably. And then the final one is the citizens petition. Would you like that one?
Sure.
Typically, whoever brought the petition
Moves it.
Have we figured out who the spokesperson for that is?
But just to introduce it, I don't,
I guess it's really up to them, but if they haven't, someone submitted it, probably the first one to sign it.
So would
I see
would
that-
somebody from our board ask for that?
Well, so I was gonna say, I see that Angela is on the line, and Angela, I know that you were one of the signatories on there. Do you know if there's someone planning to speak on behalf of the petition?
just nod or shake your head.
Gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Ed, I wasn't expecting to speak.
Sorry.
Gentleman's name is Ed.
Okay, Ed. All right, so we'll assume that someone will be there to speak to the petition. But if
Yeah,
not, Rosie, you're.
I do believe he is planning to speak to it, yes.
Introduction, And then
Right.
would invite whomever is speaking to it to present.
Okay, and make the motion itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. All right, sorry about that, Angela. I was just wanted to clarify.
No worries, I'm just sorry I didn't have my ducks in a row.
No worries. Okay. Anything else here? One thing to note, I believe, well, I do want to make a note of one thing. So KP Law did take a look at the citizens petition language, and Tom was very clear that he not amended the language to change it, but tried to write it in a way that was concise and in the standard format for how these motions should be presented in the warrant, and just said that we should read it and ensure that it aligns. I just want to say that out loud because there was never an intention to change the wording, but that there were things in there that needed to sort of be worded appropriately for the warrant itself. So the language that you're seeing in your packet is the edits made by KP Law to that citizens petition. Because we had to include like the towns of Hamilton and Wyndham and sort of do all that. Okay. So it says in here that we're going to take a vote. So I guess it's to approve the script and the motion makers? Is that what we're doing?
As motion makers, do we just read it and then recognize somebody else, or should we?
I don't think we need to make a motion for the motion makers. I think it's just.
Yeah, it just says vote in here.
No, I mean, not now. I mean,
No, it depends. So there's certain things that will require, like, people will come up, obviously the school thing, there'll be a lot of people that will come up, but like things like prior year bills or consent agenda,
that one's easy, right?
we typically just make the motion, we ask if there's any questions, and then
You
we,
said John McGrath wanted to speak to the school, for
The
instance.
school,
so
for
I would probably
instance.
recognize.
Yep.
And so will this come back with the motion maker's name on it, and then who they will recognize if they're going to speak to it?
yes.
Okay.
The packet that we get on Saturday should have all that information in it. If it doesn't, we just audibly blame Joe out loud in the meeting.
Poor Joe.
Poor Joe.
Well, Russ will be doing it if,
Okay. Great.
that's perfect.
So if we don't feel like we need any votes, which I agree, I don't think we do, we will move on. So the last item on the agenda was the request to allow placement of campaign signs on town property. I don't know if y'all were able, if Joe included or forwarded y'all the email from town council, but to recap, we had a request from a candidate running for office to be able to put signs on town property. We discussed it briefly in our last meeting. We then sent it to town council. Town council sent a great deal of case law back to us saying that it was not a great idea for us to entertain this in any way. That it sort of,
It's the reading I got.
we had asked for some parameters, but essentially if we allow any non-commercial signs, we can't limit the commercial signs. We really can't limit the time frame. There's no narrow way to define non-commercial signs and what aligns as political signs or support for political signs, things like that. And it's similar to sort of the flag policy of you either, every single one comes and you sort of define it or not. And so I bring that to the board that town council had said, don't do that. But if there's strong feelings, otherwise, we can continue. Sure, come on up here.
Hi, folks. So I'm Ben Galuza. I'm the person who submitted the request to the select
Ben.
board.
This is
Hi.
fun.
Was the recommendation from the council, is that based on specific case law that they cited in the email?
Yes, they do. They did share a couple of different, and we actually, one of the articles in the warrant this year actually was because we had a policy that outlined how long you could have certain signs in your yard, and we've had to update that because our policy was not legally compliant. We weren't allowed to tell people they couldn't have those signs.
And the language that they used was non-commercial? Did I hear that correct?
Yeah, so let
Yes.
me, yeah. So, let me just look. So it says, as we discussed, it is my understanding that the select board is considering adopting a sign policy to allow candidates for local office only, not state or federal offices, in the annual town election to place one sign of a particular sign at designated locations on public property, which include two intersections, I think the map was used, for a period of 2 to 3 weeks. the policy would not allow for placement of signs concerning ballot questions or any other issues. In my opinion, such a policy would be problematic under applicable constitutional principles and expose the town to liability for the reasons set forth below. Government regulations that target speech based on its communicative content are presumptively unconstitutional and may be justified only if the government proves that the regulation is narrowly tailored to serve a compelling interest. There's case laws quoted, multiple case laws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Moreover, the legitimacy of duration limits, particularly as applied to pre-election political signs, is doubtful. Overwhelming majority courts that have reviewed sign ordinances imposing durational limits for temporary political signs tied to a specific election date have found them to be unconstitutional. For all these reasons, in my opinion, the board cannot adopt a policy limiting the posting of signage on town property to candidates' political speech. In my further opinion, the board could adopt a policy allowing non-commercial signs to be placed at designated areas of town property and limit the duration of such signage based upon content-neutral reasons such as aesthetics after careful review of each of the specific locations and environment, allowing different groups to access to post their signs. But again, that would open it up to whomever wanted to post signs in that place moving forward.
So once you open the door for non-commercial signs, so if you adopt a policy, because there's not currently one in there, is there?
There is not currently one, and what has happened in the past, which sort of brought this up, there was sort of this, like, I'll call it a gentleman's agreement, right? That everybody was posting signs, and what we later found out was public property in front of the Cumberland Farms. Most people who posted signs there asked Cumberland Farms, thinking it was Cumberland Farms property, and Cumberland Farms, assuming it was their property, said, of course, post on us. We had complaints last year from people who did not want signs posted on public property, proved that land was actually designated public property, and we had to send DPW out to remove all the political signs from the property. So there was sort of an inadvertent precedent set that we didn't know about leading up to that, like, we never stopped it because we didn't actually know we were doing it. And now we are in a position where we have to define what that policy is. And when we talk to council, it's one of those, if you say one person can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, won't they all have to come through the select board to do it?
No, we would adopt a policy that.
I mean, like, that's for the future, though. I mean, based on the current policy, anyone who wants to post a temporary sign needs your pre-approval to do so.
Right, and I think the difference is, like, when we get into political speech, communicative political speech,
But that's not currently limited, is that correct?
it's not currently something that we allow
Yeah, and
without a
that's
policy.
That's a First
Policy does
Amendment
not
issue.
The signs we allow on public properties, you know, are on the tennis courts,
Yeah.
outside the schools, and on the, and advertising on the
Digital.
baseball field. That is it.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's some gray area, there's all these signs and what it is, like, that's it. Like, we don't
only
have
thing that
any
you
other
all
sign
have.
on public property.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's all that you have previously approved. And that
That's
you
our
do it on a-
precedent, that's what our policy is based on, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
to-
the
to be-
precedent sets the policy then.
To be honest, people have just
Yeah.
posted their political signs on the areas specific that we're talking about in front of Cumberland's and at the blinking light gas station. But it was never approved, but then again,
Right.
up until last year, they were never taken down either.
It was
so.
seek forgiveness, not permission
Right.
policy.
The only other exception is that we have senior banners that are posted on the walkway, public walkways along 1A at graduation
Oh, yeah,
season.
that's-
Yeah.
That's a.
But we've never, and again, like, I understand what you're saying, which is that based on the current policy, anything would be at the approval of the select board. I think what the legal opinion is stating is that if we say yes to you, and then next year, Fascist for Donuts says, I would like a sign put out here, and we don't have a policy that says why we let Ben but not Fascist for Donuts, we then get into a speech issue of saying, we're making decisions based on preference to people who are putting signs. And so currently, the non-existent policy is there's no political signs at all on public property.
And they're also stating that you're not allowed to limit political speech of any kind in the policies. Is that
Right.
what I'm
Right,
hearing?
that's,
First
that
Amendment,
gets to a
that's right.
constitutional issue once we start to decide what we think is appropriate, what we don't think is appropriate, it gets really
Right.
It's the
So
new
then,
constitutional
it's sort
crisis.
of like this great, the sort of like gentleman's agreement is just sort of like no political signs allowed anywhere on public property for that reason.
It is a, yeah, it's
Yeah.
an interesting conundrum, one that's not come before us. And if Tom was able to be here tonight, I would have a few questions for him, so.
We would love to rewrite our sign policy, so if somebody wants to take a stab at it, we can debate it next year,
I think.
but right now, I'm not prepared.
So I think one of the opinions here says, the United States Supreme Court has been extremely unreceptive to distinctions drawn between different kinds of non-commercial speech or speakers.
Right.
Case law quoted, and between commercial and non-commercial speech. In some, First Amendment case law has drawn a hard line with regards to laws and regulations that attempt to restrict speech based on the content of the message, including broad classifications like commercial and non-commercial speech. And as a result, laws that distinguish between commercial and non-commercial speech must be narrowly tabled to serve a compelling government interest.
Right. So there has to be a very specific and compelling reason to limit the non-commercial speech.
Yeah.
And it's a little confusing because, and his further opinion, he says, in my further opinion, however, the board could adopt a policy allowing non-commercial signage to be placed at designated areas of town property and limit the duration of such signage based upon content-neutral reasons such as aesthetics. So if it gets messy,
I'm wondering if this is sort of like, remember when we were talking about the flags, you could have, remember the whole Boston, like they just had a flagpole that was generally for non-American flags?
1 little square foot.
And it was like the
Yeah.
pole, and then you had your government speech flag. I feel like that's what he's saying here, is that like if you wanted to say this patch of grass
Right.
is for these types of signs, but the same applies. Anyone can put any sign at any time in that space. And if it is removed,
well, it can be for a limited duration.
It would have to be, right? That'd be part of it, but we don't have such a space. I mean, we talked about in front of Patton Park, we've talked about a few areas.
I wouldn't even know how to even start to define.
Well, I think,
Because
I think the traditional areas in front of the blinking light on Asbury Street.
Yeah, high visible areas, because that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about, name
Right,
recognition,
exactly.
name visibility.
And Cumberland.
But I-
Not putting your
but
position in
right.
views, but saying, hey, you're gonna go to town meeting and vote, just put this name in your head and maybe go online and research and learn more about
Yeah.
what I'm about, not the sign in front of Congress.
Right,
And I
but what I
think
would
I think
it's a
challenge you.
shame we can't do it.
But
I mean, I think
what
we
I would challenge you with is in this town, adjacent to every single one of those is a piece of private property on both sides.
Right.
So build consensus with you, because that's what you're
Everybody
trying to
doesn't
build
know
consensus to get your vote. So go out, knock on doors, build consensus, put your signs on, there's plenty of private property out there, so right
What are we gonna
adjacent to all
do
these
if
I
it's
just-
between the
one point of
sidewalk
view,
and the street?
Yeah.
I'd
That's
like
not private.
to respond
That's
to
right,
Mr.
yeah.
Olson.
Yeah.
Like, my point of view and the reason why I put the request in was because I wanted to put it in just to be transparent. I wanted to put it in a public place because I didn't want to put it on, I don't have a ton of money, so I can't make sure everybody gets a sign. I bought the signs with my own money, and I thought putting it in public property would help signal that I intended to run for the whole town, not just any one particular individual. And those probably who have prime real estate where it's high trafficked, it'd be harder to engage in a conversation in good faith if they felt like my only purpose for being there was to stick a sign on their lawn. So I've definitely been doing the door knocking. I know all of you had to do the same thing probably, and freezing my butt off out there for the past 3 months to get my name out. And this was sort of what I thought was kind of like all right, there's a town policy that says, here are all the requirements for signs. So I got a sign that met all of the policy and said, okay, that's what's allowed, it's temporary, and then it comes down. I also submitted in my request that if there was a problem and you guys wanted to attach an additional condition that says, hey, this is getting out of hand, or there's somebody else has put a sign up that didn't get permission, I'll take mine down the next day. So I submitted that. I'm happy for any additional conditions that you all want to apply, or if it's just one sign in one location, be happy with that too. So I'm very open to other ideas and concepts, but I also wanted people to know why I was interested as a path, as opposed to going the private route. I wanted to,
No, your thought
No,
process is right on.
it sounds like a reasonable request, and I appreciate all you're doing. The problem is that we have to think about worst-case scenario, and the worst-case scenario, the precedent we set would be something that I don't think that we would want to engage in as a town.
But like,
And that's the unfortunate thing. It's not people like you. It's in a worst-case scenario, can't even imagine. There's always something that comes up, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So until we really think about it, and like I said, if you want to make this your mission to rewrite our policy that we really think about and talk about and converse about, I'm more than welcome to do it. But it's not something that I'm prepared to make an exception, and then it's going to create a can of worms for us down the road.
you know, thank you, Bill. My opinion is we've always let people do it, and they've always taken their signs down promptly. I don't have a problem with it. We have limited ways of people announcing that they're running, and I would just vote for it because I think it's limited as long as the signs are down like within 3 days after the election.
Think about somebody who can afford 1,000 signs.
Yeah,
They're
but
gonna put it in
nobody's
front
ever
of
done that.
Well, but we have to govern to worst-case scenario.
I just find this very inconsistent with the fact that, like, we're saying that, like, very specific groups for very periods of time, where there has to be a policy for the digital sign, there has to be a policy for the rooms, there has to be a policy for this,
Right.
and now suddenly we're like, I mean, just let it happen.
Bravo.
That doesn't seem consistent. Like, I don't think we can do that.
Well, but it always has happened, and people have always just
But
taken
none
it
of
right
us,
down.
it never, you said we continue to let it happen. The moment that someone called last year and complained and showed that that was town property, the signs were removed. That wasn't like authorization from the select board.
So I'm saying, so last year, that's true,
Yeah.
but for multiple years before that, people just put their signs up and they took them down. And I agree, we wouldn't want 25 of one person sign.
But I think what this case law is saying is that unless there's an airtight policy of which the constitutionality of creation of that policy, they're saying is not correct.
Well, it's-
And then they're saying that there is a way that you could do it, but you would
That's
have to
right.
decide the space.
Yep.
And you would have to say anyone, anytime, year-round. So if we say that the corner of Cumbies belongs to the town, and it's the sign corner, anyone at any time can put any sign there.
But people have, they've put signs up for their landscaping, for, you know, different things.
Right, because we thought it was private property.
Because we thought they were asking Cumbies.
Well, okay, aside from that, I don't know. I can't speak to that specifically. I can just say that through the years, there have been signs up in front of the blinking light gas station.
At
and
Asbury, yeah.
in Asbury.
Same thing. I asked.
But I asked Asbury.
Sure, go ahead.
See?
Myself.
I went into
Yeah,
the Asbury gas station and asked if I could put my sign out there, and they said yes.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at it as an innocent opportunity for candidates to put their signs up for a very limited amount of time, and if it turns out to be a problem, then we can
But why was it
think
a
about
problem for the Hamilton Wenham Pride picnic to advertise on town property, but it is not a problem for us to allow anyone to place a sign on town property? I
Well-
would like consistency in the way that we govern. That's what I'm
Well,
asking
I think,
for.
okay, so I will just make a comment. I'm not broadly judging. What I'm saying is the Hamilton Wenham picnic and the initiators of that used the town logo improperly. And my comment to that is that does not include a sign on public property. And I think we can look at those two situations differently because of the specific situations. That's all
I
I'm
have
saying.
one last comment, then I'll be done, which was that all of the candidates received an informational, like, little write-up about the zoning bylaws, section 6.3 in reference to 6.3.1, and that any signage that they would need the select board's approval. So everyone had equal opportunity, if you will, to come and ask. And so I also felt kind of like, oh, if people wanted to do this and go through the pain of coming, sorry that I've now made you all kind of go
No.
through the brain damage on this, but that everyone had equal access and the opportunity to do this. And, you know, I just wanted to provide that context in case folks didn't know that all candidates received the same message and understood the same process that I'm attempting to go through. So if there's any
He's got
concerns
one
about that.
sign.
Well, my concern, and look, this has nothing to do with keeping someone's sign. I want to be consistent that if Ben puts his sign up and another candidate also wants to go through this process, there's no time for them to do that.
Well, we
because
received
we've-
the info though, like a month and a half ago.
And I think, again, if somebody would like to make a motion, we can vote on it. That's fine. I find this inconsistent with how policy and focused we are on making sure we have control over who can use the rooms and for how long and for what purposes and who can do what. And all of a sudden, we're like, nope, any signs of any kind, put them out there. We trust you'll take them away. But like, that means,
But they have, Caroline, that's
that doesn't
the
make it
reality.
okay. Like, the history is riddled with people who did things that they weren't supposed to. That doesn't mean we codify them.
I think it's over-regulating to not let poor candidates put their signs
But again,
up.
we're not saying, we can't say just candidates. What this is saying is if we say
We had
you
a
can put
policy
your
that
sign out there,
Right.
we are authorizing that
Any,
people
but that's my
can
point,
just
any.
put signs. In the middle of July, you can put signs on town property.
But who sent the packages to the candidates that said they could come in front of the select board and put a sign up with these qualifications? Because to me, if I'm a candidate, I'm pretty mad that I was given that guidance.
I have no idea. I'm assuming
Did that come from the League of Women Voters or for?
From the town?
Do you know if it came from
Corinne
them?
is on the call. She might know if there's some sort of packet given out.
Not a packet, it's just like, it's a fair warning kind of notice.
Oh.
Basically, like, these are the zoning bylaws and guidelines that need to be followed. And so I
Okay.
went and read them, and that there was no
Right.
exclusions for any other types of
Right.
signs, whether it was like for profit, for money, for advertising, or for
Signs.
candidacy, right?
Right,
So-
and that's the issue with, people come before us all the time asking to put up their signs, and we don't have any issue with it, so.
We do, no, we do. We have debate every one, if it's a town organization or raising money for a town organization.
We do.
We've
but
allowed it.
For that, which
Yeah.
I relate to candidate, someone running for a town board.
For the
too.
town.
It's like, and that's,
Volunteer.
But they're not a town representative yet. That's the issue.
Don't underestimate
saying-
that stipend.
They're not a town representative
I'll
yet.
start by
Right.
saying I think
Yeah.
we need a policy to
Oh,
do
yeah.
it based on the guidance, but it's a shame we
I don't
don't
believe the
have
guidance is being read correctly, but we can
get an
debate
extra
that. We can
$10
debate
for
it.
your chair.
I don't think that the guidance is that should allow,
It's saying we shouldn't, so I'm saying absent
Well,
the
it's
policy.
not saying
we
that, it's
should.
saying we could, it's,
He gave us.
right,
you
he
know,
gave us the
examples where-
options at the bottom of his opinion.
But I think we come up quickly, not for this.
oh, sorry,
election,
when you say
not-
guidance, I mean, I'm talking about the guidance he got from,
I didn't
From-
receive guidance, I received.
Yeah, no, I get it now.
right.
Directives.
To read
Be
what
careful what you do, there are zoning
I went
laws.
and read it, and it said that you can get temporary signs approved if you request it through the select board. It didn't have any limitations about who can get a temporary sign in place, and I said, well,
Right.
that's me. I'm looking for a temporary sign
Right.
on public property. I didn't read it as, I appreciate all the context we've received now from council, which I can see the conundrum, to use that word, and, but it's like,
We'll definitely put it on new business for a policy that we could be, you know, specific on. But we, absent that, to your point, we do need consistency, and so kind of my hands feel tied.
Well, he's here asking us, so why, that's sort
But
of,
it is inconsistent with some examples that were brought up.
If somebody would like to make, yes, sir, to the mic.
It sounds like we didn't approve anyone. No one came to us before ever to say, can I put it up there?
But we
Nev-
do
ever, ever.
approve-
So we don't even have a precedence. People are just doing it. It's just
Right.
like.
right.
Bob
it's
Stallard, Bay Road.
Town, but
Yes,
doesn't
sir.
make
I was
it.
wondering what other towns are doing.
No idea.
It'd be very helpful to know, since we really don't have a big problem here,
Right.
but we're thinking there could be. Why don't we look at two ways, what other towns have either done it or not done it? Because
Yeah, I mean, I did, because we always do that. It's the first place I always go, I always look at other towns. They're either no policy or there's a policy against it. I couldn't find any town that had a policy supporting it. So they're clear cut, no political signs on public property, or they were silent on the issue, but nobody had a policy allowing it, in the ones I looked. Yeah.
I don't see it as a problem as you drive through the main streets.
But when you see 1,000 signs on school property for something that the school doesn't support, that's a problem.
Well, and I used this example the other day. So when I was home over the last election, there is I don't know if it's a policy or just nobody said anything, that you can put signs on public property in my mom's town. So she's going to vote, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of political signs all over the courthouse lawn, all over the town hall lawn, and it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot that you're taking in that state. That means people can put them on the library lawn, they can put them on the fields
Well, they have to
lawn.
hold them. In our town, you mean? Are you talking about our town?
But if you say that a candidate can put a sign on public property and you do not designate exactly where,
That's what the policy would have to read. Designation.
they can just go
no
stick
content
one
branding.
in a field. And I'm not saying they would, but I'm like, we literally were saying that the library couldn't put something on the digital sign unless they had an official friends group, and now we're like, just this time. It feels weird to me that we like, the library book sale was gonna be a problem on the digital sign, but policy is on political signs. We're just saying, like, see what happens.
Well, because they don't, I suppose they don't have the advantage of being a town entity, and how else do they get their message out to the greater community?
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, I want to support the candidates. It was terrible. It was terrible that, like, one Fallon's gas station, or one of the gas stations told me I absolutely couldn't put my sign up when all the other candidate signs were up because they politically didn't agree with me. And that's frustrating. I didn't get a sign there.
But that was his property.
No, well, technically, that wedge of grass.
Oh, here we go. You
But
could
that's
use
what I
that
mean.
with any of them.
But
Yeah.
technically, that wedge of grass belongs to the town. You know, and so it's like, again, a motion can be made. I'm happy to vote on it. I'm not saying that it can't, but
Well, okay, so I'll make a motion that we allow this candidate to put his signs up in front of Cumberland's or in front of the blinking sign and have it promptly removed 3 days after the election.
I don't think we're allowed to say that. According to this, we cannot put a time restriction.
Yes, for aesthetic reasons, you can do that.
No, this says if we designate a specific location and environment where all groups can do it, but we cannot, it says in here,
But we're not making a policy, we're agreeing to this particular candidate who has come before us.
but it's still a regulation targeting speech based on its communicative content, and it is presumably unconstitutional to justify that we can prohibit.
But not prohibiting anybody.
No, we're saying after 2 weeks, you have to remove it. Your free speech is over.
Right, for aesthetic reasons.
But the aesthetic reasons only applies to the specific location that we designate later.
Right, and I did designate 2 locations.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I just think there's too many loose ends on this, as much as I
My
want
God,
to do
okay.
this.
All right.
I wish Joe was here, because I know he spoke with council, or council was here. It's difficult to go against a council recommendation.
He didn't say not, though,
He
if
says
you
that we're
read,
putting ourselves at risk.
he
But he
gave his
also says that we
opinion.
have to adopt a policy, not that we approve a singular. The entire thing stems around, we said, we're thinking about this, and they said, and we said we want to put together a policy,
Right.
and this was the response.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Yeah, do we have a second?
All right, so
All
let's
right,
move on.
with no second, the motion fails.
You can put one in my yard.
Yeah, no.
You can put one in my yard.
Yeah, you're welcome
put one in my
to
yard.
come put mine, yeah, you're welcome to come put
You
one in.
live on the main road? Yeah, you do. Oh,
do.
I'll show you where he lives. He
Right
said
across
he-
from-
Yeah, he's got a prime location.
He's more of a
Awesome.
Location.
Thank you, Bill.
Joe will have to officially email all of us tomorrow morning, or whenever he's back.
Reach out to my town. I'd like to follow up with you just on some stuff.
Some stuff. Yeah, no one passes by my street, but you're still welcome to put a sign there.
The wine bottles. And
It's the wine bottles. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, oh, that was so quick.
I know. Tom Myers.
Tom Myers, aye.
William Olson, aye.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill Wilson, aye.
Caroline Beaulieu, aye. Meeting is adjourned.
All right.